Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Last night we profiled candidates running in the federal election from the Battleford's Lloydminster riding, and tonight we continue that coverage with profiles of the candidates from the Lakeland riding. We reached out to all candidates on the ballot, and Kira Brunner of the Green Party wasn't available for interview. We begin tonight with my interview with the NDP candidate for the riding, Visanet. I'm joined here now with Lakeland NDP candidate Desiree Visanet. So what inspired you to run in this election, and what is your platform?
I decided to throw my name in for a lot of different reasons, but really what my platform is and what I personally believe in kind of boils down to three words, and that's people over profit. I've been a worker for a really long time. I started my first job when I was 14 and I'm 26 now. And so I've been in the workforce for 12 years. And I noticed throughout my adult life that, I never can really get ahead. It's really difficult. And especially with, working minimum wage jobs, it just was something I noticed as a pattern is no matter what I was doing and no matter how well I was getting paid, whether I was in management or anything like that, I was having a really hard time getting ahead and, creating savings. I'm a renter, so, I couldn't buy a house or anything like that. And so that was one of the things that kind of motivated me and that I really value is, protecting working class people and giving us a voice. Another thing that's really passionate to me and something that I really want to focus on is helping people who are living with disabilities. In Canada, we pretty much legislate people with disabilities into living in poverty. And in a G7 country where, we're one of the richest countries in the world, it's just unacceptable. And it's time that we change that. And so one of the things that I'm running on is to help people who are living with disabilities by listening to them and advocating for them and getting them the supports that they need. And another really big thing for me is I am an environmentalist through and through. And I understand that there's the energy sector, especially in rural Alberta, is really focused on the oil field. And my spouse is in oil field. And so part of my income relies on that. And I totally understand the frustration of being an oil field dependent family and having, jobs are constantly a question on whether or not you're going to be keeping them. And it's really unfortunate that our workers in oil fields are considered temporary or seasonal workers because when you get laid off, you don't get severance. And I've been in that situation where my spouse has lost his job and we were trying to figure out how we were going to put food on our table. And so those are some of the things that I'm really focused on, is focusing our government on helping people instead of just profiteering for companies. We give all these subsidies to the oil field, but workers don't see that, just the people who are in charge. And so, that's really what I'm running on is to protect people and to uplift all people, no matter what our ability is or, our jobs. We all deserve to live in dignity and we all deserve human rights. We deserve housing and food, and we deserve to live fulfilling lives where we aren't worried about how we're going to eat or how we're going to keep a roof over our heads.
And what have you been hearing from the constituents in your riding?
People are concerned about a lot of the same things. I think affordability is kind of on everybody's mind, especially since the pandemic. Most people struggled during the pandemic, whether that was they were losing hours at work or they lost their jobs or, they had to take sick time away due to exposure or a positive case. So affordability is a huge one that people talk about. And that's something that, resonates a lot with me because I've been there. And at the very beginning of this pandemic, I was living paycheck to paycheck. And the first week of March was probably one of the hardest of my life. And so, I understand that. And there's a lot of that conversation around affordability and uncertainty. People are really concerned about, recovering from the pandemic and what that looks like. And especially as we're still going through another wave of the pandemic, what that's going to look like for normal people who don't have savings and normal people who don't have, an infinite access to money. Like we're afraid. And I know that a lot of people are feeling that. And that's something that has been a huge conversation. Also, agriculture has been a really big one, which is super. I love talking about agriculture. I'm really interested in it. It's something that's been kind of a new thing for me to learn about. And it's been very enjoyable. And so talking to people about agriculture and just support there has been really, really interesting as well.
And what is your plan for a meeting with constituents throughout the rest of the campaign?
So we're doing lots of door knocking. I really want to get out to as many communities as I can. This riding is so big, and so it's definitely hard. There's so many little communities that unfortunately I don't think I'll have quite enough time to see before election day. But it's something I want to continue on for as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Desiree.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Up next, we have the PPC candidate Ann McCormick to talk about why voters should consider voting for the People's Party. Here's Jace Mackey.
Today, I'm joined by Ann McCormick. She's the People's Party of Canada candidate for the riding of Lakeland. And thank you for taking some time to talk to me. First of all, can you tell me why you decided to run for the People's Party?
We've lived in Lakeland for 20 years. My husband and I have a small farm near Clandonald. I was asked to run. I guess that's the long and the short of it. We thought we had a candidate, and whatever circumstances happened in that person's life, they chose not to put their name forward. So it was really kind of a last minute thing. And I do believe in the PPC values of just the very basic values of smaller government and lower taxes first. And so I'm happy to represent that, and then the other pillars and the platforms that PPC represents.
Well, now I'll give you a chance to kind of go through some of the policies that are in the People's Party platform and how they'll help people here in the riding.
Freedom and fairness, individual responsibility. I mean, these things are part of the People's Party of Canada's platform. What I find when I'm talking to people right now, last week, more than this week even though, because I think people have made their decisions, is how they're going to manage COVID and with their children, getting their kids on school buses, mandatory vaccines, all this type of thing have been at the front of people's minds. They put a lot of stress on themselves, and government employees have had a lot of pressure, and now private sector employees are under a lot of pressure to take a mandatory vaccination. I think that's one of the policies that I really support with the People's Party of Canada. First of all, it's up to the individual, no one else, about what you inject in your body or in your child's body. The schools don't own our children. Government does not own our body, and neither do our bosses. And this is historic. We've never had mandates like this before. So the People's Party of Canada's first point on COVID is about respect for each individual. The second point is actually to fire Dr. Tam and hold her to account for some of her actions, some of her poor advice over the last year or so, and replace her with someone that can work more easily with the provinces, since health is under the provincial jurisdiction. One of the other points that I think is just absolutely imperative for Alberta especially, but federally as well, is to get pipelines built. I mean, this not having pipelines it's extremely expensive for one thing. We can't market our products, but it's pertinent to farming too, because that rail car space, etc., is taken up by oil, which can be transported through a pipeline, as opposed to grains, which cannot be transported via pipeline.
So going back to COVID and vaccines, vaccine passports is a big topic, and the People's Party, they're against them, right?
Absolutely. It builds a segregated society. It builds a society based on discrimination. As I say, I had someone tell me that people who are not vaccinated should not be treated for COVID. Well, where does that end? Where does that end? Should I check your political beliefs or your religious beliefs? Or your genetics before I decide to give you help if you're ill? It becomes a segregated society, and it's abhorrent. I think it is absolutely awful. We should help one another because it's the right thing to do.
Well, this riding is heavily conservative, and there's a lot of option for conservative voters with the People's Party, obviously the Conservatives, and the PPC. Why do you think the People's Party is the best choice for conservative-minded voters?
The PPC is a conservative party, small c conservative. We believe in lower taxes. The first thing we would like to do is get rid of the carbon tax. That's 10 cents a liter on every liter of fuel you buy, and it will be up to 40 cents a liter, and Aaron O'Toole does not object. So we are the conservative party that has federal reach. Maverick Party has limited their availability for people to vote only in the West, which is a model that we saw with Reform and Alliance before. It's been done. But the PPC has a very good following in Atlantic Canada, Quebec, parts of Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC.
Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today, Anne.
Next for the candidate profiles is the Maverick Party for the Lakeland riding, Fred Saret. Our Shelby Clark spoke with him on his campaign platform.
I'm joined here with Fred Saret, the Lakeland candidate with the Maverick Party. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Now, first question I wanted to ask is, what exactly is your campaign platform and what do you stand for?
Well, the unique thing about the Maverick Party is that we're the only Western regional federal party in Canada. So we're not running any candidates east of Manitoba. So our interest is in the West, solely for the West. So that makes us quite unique in of itself. We also have a two-track system where we are intending to elect MPs to Parliament this year. And also we're at the same time working for greater autonomy for Alberta and for the West independence.
And do you have a message to constituents ahead of the election?
Not really. We're a very new party, so the election's called. Our conference, I believe, was 7 or 8 days ahead of the election call, so there was not much of a message before, you bet.
How have you been spreading your message for just until the election? Have you been knocking on doors?
We haven't knocked on a lot of doors, just again, COVID concerns and getting organized have all been issues. It's been by word of mouth. We have people in all areas of the constituency. They've been talking. We've had some town halls, that kind of informal gatherings, as well as press releases and that. I think it's still a big challenge for people to know what Maverick's all about.
What's your plan from now until the election?
Our plan is to get the message out that we're a Western party. We don't feel that the West has got a very good deal over the last years of Confederation, especially. We want better. We want to be the spokesman for the West, and we want to give a clear, uncompromised voice for the West in Ottawa, which we feel like has been always been tainted by the Central Canada agenda. And national parties want to appease the voters in Central Canada ahead of the Western concerns.
What's your message to people that want to vote for you but are worried that it'll be split?
It can be split a lot of different ways. Conservative would be one of them. I guess bluntly, I would just like to challenge the Westerners to vote Maverick because we are the voice for the West. And we're uncompromised. And so if people who are concerned, well, we'd rather have a conservative in, if need be, ahead of a NDP or something, that's the concern of the voter. For us, our concern is that we get elected and can make a voice for our constituencies that's uncompromised. And there's some decisions to be made. I think on September 20th, our constituents have to ask the question, are we satisfied with what we're getting in Confederation? Are we satisfied that we've been getting a good deal out of Confederation? And if not, what are you going to do about it? Because this is an opportunity for change. Maverick gives us that option for change.
And is there anything else you'd like to add for people to know about just concerning your campaign platform?
I don't really think, there's a lot of issues and specific issues. challenges that we need a better deal in marketing. The gas and oil industry has been absolutely decimated by willfulness on part of the central Canada of just not respecting or honoring the treasure that is out in the West. We should have a better deal in the West, and I don't know where it's going to come from. If it doesn't come from the Maverick voice, that's solely a Western party representing the West in Ottawa. It's not magic or anything. It's quite a simple strategy. It's worked well for the Bloc in Quebec over the number of years, and that will have a somewhat similar look for us in the West.
Perfect. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us today, Fred.
Thanks, Shelby, for having us on.
Now Shelby Clark will take a look at your weather forecast. Thanks so much, Jasmine. Now taking a look at your weather forecast here in the border city. We are seeing a cooler day today with a lot more cloudier skies. We haven't seen too much sun. We are sitting at 10 degrees with 46-kilometer winds coming from northwest there. So hopefully people are indoors, and we are seeing a bit of rain today. So it is a bit cooler, but as we go through my forecast, we will be seeing that it will warm up quite a bit. Now taking a look at temperatures across the region here of the region, Lac La Biche is at 10 degrees, Cold Lake, Bonnyville, and St. Paul are at 7, 8, and 9. Edmonton's a bit warmer there, as well as in Provost at 13 degrees, and Vegreville is at 12, while Vermilion and Wainwright are at 11. Now over on the Saskatchewan side here, Isle Cross, St. Walburg, Maidstone, and North Battleford are at that 7-degree mark, while Green Lake is at 6, and Pearceland and Meadow Lake are at 5 degrees, and Macklin is still seeing 12 degrees there. But as we look at the border city here overnight, we will be seeing a low of -1 overnight with a lot more clear skies. So we are cooling down quite a bit tonight. And as we go into tomorrow, we will warm up quite a bit there to a high of 17 with a mix of some sun and cloud there. So that'll be good to see. And now as we take a look at the school day forecast for all the kids out there in the border city, tomorrow they'll be seeing definitely a cooler temperature there with at 0 degrees there as we start off for the day with a lot more cloudier skies. And as they go through the day there during their classes, it will warm up just a bit to 11 degrees. And by the time they're out, it will be at 15 with a little bit more sun peeking behind those clouds. And now as we take a look at temperatures tomorrow across the region, we'll be warming up quite a bit in most places than what we were seeing today. Tomorrow will be ranging from around 15 to 18 degrees there tomorrow, while Lac La Biche will be seeing 14 degrees over on this side. And now as we check on the Saskatchewan side here, they'll be seeing around the same there, as Isle Cross might be seeing a little bit cooler temperatures sitting at 13 degrees. And now as we end off with taking a look at our 7-day forecast for the border city, Saturday will be definitely warming up to a high of 22 on Saturday with a mix of some sun and cloud. And Monday we'll be seeing a high of 17 as we start off next week after the weekend there. So we'll be seeing warmer temperatures next week than what we were seeing this week. And Thursday we'll be seeing a high of 16 and a low of 7 degrees, but most days we will be seeing a little bit more sun. That is a look at your weather forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break. We're continuing with our profiles of the candidates running to be the next Member of Parliament for Lakeland. Jace Mackey has more from Conservative Shannon Stubbs.
Shannon Stubbs is a Conservative candidate for Lakeland. She's out door knocking this campaign, but she's no stranger to voters.
I and my team are door knocking in communities right across Lakeland. One thing that I've done ever since I was elected in 2015 was door knock every single summer. And so it's not a thing I only do during campaign time, but of course you ramp it up significantly during the 36 days of the election campaign.
Stubbs believes voters have a big choice in this election to set the direction of Canada as we recover from the pandemic.
I think that what the people of Lakeland and frankly what Canadians right across the country want to know is what are the next steps for Canada of economic recovery. Now, I would say it has been the case since 2015, but escalating, that people in Lakeland are concerned about their financial security, about their families, about their small businesses. And of course, so many small businesses and employees And communities as a whole have been impacted by many of the government decisions over the last year and a half. And so I think that governments need to cut taxes, they need to reduce red tape, need to get the economy going so that small businesses can create jobs, and so that families and individuals can feel like they've got a secure future in their communities. And we as the Conservative Party have already released this comprehensive economic recovery plan, and those are the issues that we're focusing on the campaign, as I have over the previous 6 years representing the riding of Lakeland.
Stubbs says the current federal government has neglected the West.
The federal government is recognized for the fact that, it has made these contributions to the credit of the town councils, the mayors, the MLAs, and my office working hand in hand with them to advocate for their priorities. They've have received federal funding for things like wastewater treatment plants and other core infrastructure. But this region is ground zero for the real impacts of years and years of the Trudeau Liberals' anti-oil and gas, anti-business, frankly, anti-Alberta policies and legislation that have made it harder to develop resources, that have cost billions of dollars to leave this country, and hundreds of thousands of oil and gas workers to lose their jobs, that have made it harder for small business owners, harder for entrepreneurs to get started. The Trudeau Liberals have been a government that frankly have ignored rural Canada. And now, of course, have called an election campaign right in the middle of a severe drought, and farmers not sure what the next few months will look like, probably with terrible harvests and some really difficult choices to be made. So I do hear from the residents in Lakeland and this area a lot of concern about the Trudeau Liberals, and so everybody is kind of asking themselves why the heck we're having this election in the first place. But I do hear over and over from people they sure do like the opportunity to get him out of government, stop the damage that their policies have done to Lakeland and to the province.
She hopes she can win the votes of people in this riding based on what she's done so far in Ottawa.
What I hope is that the people of Lakeland will assess me based on my track record and on my actions. I hope that I have earned the trust and confidence of the people that have elected me twice to represent our riding. I believe that I have shown a consistent work ethic, integrity, and have taken on prominent positions advocating for the core values, the key principles, and the major priorities for the communities in Lakeland and our province as a whole. I think the more people in an electoral race, the better. The more issues that there are that can be discussed and debated. I welcome anybody who wants to put their name on the ballot and stand for election. And I just hope that people of Lakeland will trust me with their confidence and their support to keep fighting for them in the House of Commons. And certainly there is a risk of, if previous Conservative voters do vote for other parties, the reality is that only benefits Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. And so I'm just going to work hard to earn every vote and earn the trust and the confidence of the residents of Lakeland again, and hope that they'll sign me up to keep being their voice and fighting for them in Ottawa.
For Primetime Local News, I'm Jace Mackey.
Continuing on with our election profiles, we now go to Tate Laycraft, who sat down with Lakeland Liberal candidate John Turby.
Joining me now as part of our election candidate series is Lakeland Liberal Party candidate John Turby. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you, Tate. I'm glad to be here.
So for those who are unfamiliar, you are currently an instructor at Lakeland College, and your political background dates back as far as 2015 when you served as president with the Greaseback in Edmonton. Could you just give people a little bit of a rundown on what drew you to politics?
Well, I suppose my interest in politics really started developing in a more fulsome manner when I began teaching economics courses at the Alberta School of Business, and in particular when I started teaching government business relations. And at that point, I started to look at how the governments behave, and how our voting structure is made and how democracy works. And tied in with my work in economics, and I'm profoundly Adam Smithian in the sense that my philosophy falls back all the way back to Adam Smith in the early 18th century. And between those two relationships, the free market aspect of Adam Smith and the power of democracy, I started to see something in politics that really drew me to it, and basically made me want to do what I could, not on an ideological plane, but to actually preserve and protect democracy. Democracy, as I see it, is very, very fragile and very, very precious. And I feel we have to step up and do what we can to preserve it.
And on that note, to the people who might write you off and think that a vote for John Turby is just wasting a vote with the popularity of conservative politics in this area, what would you say to them?
I say nothing could be further from the truth. Okay, there is a reason why we have the Maverick Party here in Alberta. Believe it or not, the goals of the Maverick Party are the same goals that I have. We're just going about doing it differently, right? We want a strong Alberta. We want a strong Alberta integrated into Canadian politics, the Canadian economy, and Canadian society from coast to coast. Canada needs Alberta. And believe it or not, whether you like it or not, Alberta needs Canada. And we saw that through the, through the recent pandemic.
Moving on to your platform then, what kind of local issues would you seek to prioritize and tackle at the helm of this seat?
One policy paper, I'll give you an example, one policy paper that I wrote and submitted, and it's somewhere I don't know who's ignoring it, but somebody's ignoring it somewhere, as all good policy papers should be at some point in their life cycle. My policy paper involved this understanding from economics. Oh God, I can't explain the economics so much, but the idea is that when your typical farmer, right, gets a new tractor or a combine or a seeder or a fertilizer or something, right, they're investing a vast amount of capital, money in physical capital so that they can increase their output. As all the farmers do that, because they have to be competitive, I'm moving supply curves with my arms now. The supply increases so much, but the demand doesn't. And so the price falls. So yes, the farmer can produce stuff, but the revenue doesn't go up. We, the consumers, get all the benefits of the farmer's investment in capital. And that's not fair because we benefit so much from it. So part of my philosophy is, my platform, is to offset that with, because we want efficient farmers, but we know they're going to pay they're not going to get anything back for their efficiency. So if we're moving forward with climate change, we want efficiency on the farms as much as possible. We know it's going to consume vast amounts of fuel and resources to generate our harvest, but you know what? We got to eat, right? That's how it's done. But we want to make sure that the farms are viable. Farms operate on economies of scale. We know that out here. Once you can't make it on a section. You need 3, 4, 1, and because you can't buy enough capital to make a small farm run efficiently, you sell the farm. The young people don't want it, and the larger corporations snag up the farms, and they can operate on economies of scale where they can now invest in capital. They can invest in a combine that can do 5 or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a farmer. I don't know how many sections they can do. But the point is, they can always expand and produce at a lower average cost than the family farms. And the family farms are going out of business. And what happens when they go out of business? The local communities collapse and get hollowed out. We get stranded capital, and and we lose our rural base.
Once again, this has been a sit down with John Turby, who is the Liberal candidate for the Lakeland area in this year's election. Thanks so much for your time, John.
Now here are your stock market prices for today.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
Welcome back. An Alberta research institution is looking to collaborate on drought research projects. Jillian Code has more.
Today on Primetime Local News, I'm speaking with Melissa Downing, who is the Vice Chair of Results-Driven Agriculture Research. Now, Melissa, Radar was formed in early of 2020, so could you maybe explain a little bit about what the goal of Radar is?
So our goal is to, we are results-driven agriculture research. So we are focusing on producers and making sure that our projects that are getting completed are beneficial to producers at the farm level. So we really try to keep that in mind with everything we do, is that we want to produce tangible benefits for producers that can actually be implemented on farm. And so we have post-secondary institutions that apply for research. We have applied research associations, so such as Lakeland Applied Research or different ones that are around the province. And there's also some producer groups that might have applications or projects going on. So with, beef producers or canola commission, those organizations that would also do that. So it's kind of a combination of different, we're open to other organizations as well. So anybody who wants to submit a project, if you can show the benefit to Alberta producers, we're happy to take a look at that.
Absolutely. And you guys have put out a drought research proposal. Could you maybe just tell me a bit about what type of results you guys are hoping to find from this proposal?
So there's some immediate concerns. So things like water quality with livestock. You see a lot of water bodies that have dried up this year or are significantly reduced capacity of water. And so that means that there can be concerns with the quality on those, and that can make it so it's not suitable for livestock to drink and can cause, illness or even death in some species. And so we were looking at that and saw there may be a need for or an opportunity to come up with rapid testing that producers can use on farm that would come up with real results right away, where you can know immediately whether that water body would be suitable for using for your livestock. So, we worked with Olds College. We commissioned them to start a research project based on that we can hopefully next time we are in this situation that we have those tests readily available for producers to use right now. And that's one example of what we're looking at. I mean, there's lots of things. There's a project right now that we just approved with Battle River Research Group, and they're looking at how does the drought affect certain varieties of wheat. And so using drones, they can do monitoring of those different varieties and determine which ones would be best suited for these conditions. So there's things like that can really help the industry going forward to be prepared for this.
And so I'm just wondering if a farmer, is interested in taking part in this research, maybe not facilitating the research, but, say contributing a piece of land or something like that, would they be able to reach out to you guys and just say, hey, I'm interested?
So we usually work with a set group of like a set research project. So the idea is that an organization or a group would come up with a research project, they would design it and have those, everything kind of in place, and then propose that to ARDAR to see if they can get support for that project. And so I would say if you're a producer wanting to get involved with something like that, one way would be to talk to your local or your regional research associations. So the applied research associations in Alberta are a good source of connections so that you can see if there's any opportunity to work with them. And there might be other organizations in your area that would be happy to work with you as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks, you as well.
Now we'll take a look at your egg prices. The last time a Wheatland Football League game was played was the 2019 League Championship, where the Lloyd Comp Barons defeated the Holy Rosary Raiders. These two teams will be back on the field Friday night to kick off the 2021 season. The Holy Rosary Raiders still remember the sting from losing the 2019 finals. So far this season, the Raiders are back to their winning ways, beating Paul Kane 19-7 and Hunting Hills 29-6.
It's always the biggest game of the year, even though it's in September. Typically, it's one of the biggest games of the year, and the kids get worked up. So we're excited about the challenge. You know, they're defending champs, and the last time we had a season, they won it. And so they're always the team to beat, and we want to be the team that's competing with them on the 17th.
The Comp is currently off to one of their weaker starts in recent history. The Barons dropped a game to Bev Facey 26-17, and last weekend lost by 1 point against the Combe. The game will be played on Holy Rosary turf Friday at 5 p.m. And we'll have more primetime local news after the break. Welcome back. Around 120 senior students at Holy Rosary had the chance to participate in a physical ability requirement evaluation training course, also known as PAIR, held by RCMP yesterday. The 3-station course gave students some insight on what officers had to do through training to become a part of the RCMP. The school wants to show students who are interested in the career on what they would need to accomplish in order to be a member.
Some research has gone into the PAIR so that we're able to make sure our physical abilities is where it needs to be when we're involved in a foot chase, wrestling someone, or maybe carrying a partner from point A to point B to safety. So that's what it replicates, and that's what we're going to demonstrate here. It is physically demanding.
Constable Flynn believes having these partnerships are key in the community and a great tactic for the RCMP since most recruitments come from high schools. The staff at Holy Rosary knows the students enjoyed the course and love some healthy competition.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're really excited to see what they'll bring and who will compete against each other. There's always the shy one in the back that maybe will surprise us, or there's the ones that like to go against each other and we'll smack talk a little bit and see who can beat. It's always kind of fun to see what they do.
The Lloydminster RCMP and the school staff hopes this course helps certain students decide their occupation and plan to have this course again next year. Now we will be taking a look at your pet pictures. Thank you to everyone who submitted them to our Facebook page throughout the week, and we will be giving away a Pet Pad gift card tomorrow.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram to have them featured on Pet of the Day. Your name will be entered into a weekly draw for a gift certificate from the Pet Pad.
Joining me now on Primetime Local News from the hamlet of Frenchman Butte is Pastor Lévi Baudouin, and he's here to talk about the upcoming reveal of Canada's very first colorblind viewer. Thanks so much for your time, Lévi.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So first things first, what can you tell people about this colorblind viewer, and how did the project kind of come to be?
Well, one of the things that we noticed in our community was a lot of members were colorblind, or sorry, a lot of people in the community were colorblind. And I kind of knew about, the things that were out there for colorblind challenges and how street lights are organized and stuff like that. And the church here at our Christmas concert every year, our Christmas banquet every year, we raised funds for something. And so 4 years ago, we raised funds for the food bank. 3 years ago, we raised funds for AED defibrillator for our community. And then for the past 2 Christmases here, we raised funds towards this Colorblind Viewer. And the idea of having Colorblind Viewer, I'm not quite sure how it all came about, just that we have such a beautiful view here in the Butte of the valley. Our church is known as the church with the $1 million view, and within our own fellowship here. And anybody who comes by, even the museum sends them up and say, go take a peek on the hilltop there, the view that's there. And so it's with all that excitement and with all that beauty that we see, that we thought, it would be we were looking for something to do in the next year, and that's what came up as a Colorblind Viewer. However, the expense was a little bit more than what we usually raise on a year. So it took us 2 years to raise funds for that. And then this year we were raising funds for housing it. So we raised funds for a gazebo that it'll be in. So all in all, I think we were around $13,000 to get it all set up and the way we want it. And it's going to be a beautiful site for people to come have a look at all the colors. And this is the perfect time of year to do that, with the fall colors just coming out and being able to see the colors for the first time.
And you guys are hosting a reveal event that's coming up this weekend. Could you just give people a little bit of a summary on how that's going to work?
So being we're a small community, we also asked the museum if they would want to do something to be able to draw the people out as well. So they have reopened for Saturday from 10 till 1. They're going to be open there, or just about 1 o'clock. They're going to be open serving lunch. So those that want to come from a distance don't have to run around for a restaurant, expect to eat before you go. Come on out, enjoy the museum. Our little museum here has won the award 2 years in a row for best little small town museum. And, we've got quite a reputation. So working together with the community, we're having that. So kind of a soup and sandwich type of deal at the museum, and then to follow, we're going to have the big reveal and then a big cake to celebrate that reveal here at the church. And we're also in the middle of adding on a new sanctuary at the church, so it's kind of exciting as well. So the gazebo, the viewfinder, is just maybe 100 feet away from the corner of our building here, so right on the very peak of the hill. So we're really happy to have that.
And as far as accessibility goes, I understand it was important to you guys to remove any potential barriers that could prevent people from getting to experience this viewer.
Well, we want to make it a place where it can be enjoyed by everyone. A lot of these viewfinders, when you go in, you got to plug your quarter in order to get a 10-minute view or whatever it is. And here we've removed that feature off of it. We didn't want that feature on it. So it's come and just enjoy the view. We have this beautiful little hamlet, perfect bedroom community. If you want to live in a place that's quiet, it's just a perfect little community with an awesome view, very friendly folks around here. And I guess as a church, we want to be promoting our church. We want our community.
Once again, that was Pastor Levi Baudouin talking about the upcoming reveal of Canada's very first colorblind viewer in Frenchman Butte.
Today, I'm joined by organizers from the Taste of Wainwright to discuss their event happening tomorrow. So to start, with the new COVID restrictions announced yesterday, has that affected or impacted your event?
We are spacing everybody out really well. This year we're going 4 blocks just so we can have the room spacing everyone out, and our tables and everything for people to sit at are going to be well spaced. We have sanitizing stations all over. So I think that we're doing a good job on that part.
And we just spoke to Alberta Health this morning about, especially with the news last night, and we were all anxious, but we're following the protocol. It's no different than, Edmonton or Calgary with their outdoor football games. We'll just, like Ira said, make sure that we've got our tables for families to spread out, and we'll have some bright lines. So we're doing our distancing at each vendor.
Have you guys faced any challenges this year with COVID restrictions and precautions?
Oh my goodness. I think that we're best to keep those secrets among us. It has just been such a challenge.
Because that could take another hour.
We postponed thinking that by September 1st, our projected vaccination would be at such and such. And so, no, it's been a real challenge. We have like 6 vendors for one reason or another couldn't be here, but are already signed up for next year. So, we look, the minute we're done this one, we're going to be planning 2022.
How many vendors are you guys going to have for this year?
I'm trying to think of everybody.
The barbecue pork.
We got that.
Morales, Morales, the Mexican, catering, Vera's catering.
And something sweet.
Something sweet. Okay,
Pizza.
Co-op, Cornerstone Co-op Food and Liquor are doing a joint venture.
Yeah. So what's Circle K gonna do?
Circle K. Oh, Circle K have their famous gigantic Bavarian pretzels.
Oh, right.
Nice and warm for a cool evening.
Right.
Yeah, we've had to really change because normally we have it in July, even with the liquor tasting, is that now that we're into the fall cool air, we've kind of had to change our kind of outlook.
Right.
Keep people warm.
Right. Well, next year we'll be back to July though.
Next year, yes.
Yeah.
And how much can people expect to pay for admission and food tickets?
Well, we sell dollar tickets. So, I mean, our vendors charge between $1 and maximum $5. And so you come and purchase your tickets and then you just go wild with each vendor. We've got a map. Our local newspaper did a map. So those who followed us have the map to follow. But it's, we've got a lot of space to operate in.
I think we're spread over 4 blocks.
Yeah, 4 blocks.
And where exactly is the event being held?
Main Street, Wainwright. Yeah.
Right on our main street. Yeah.
And who are some of the vendors that you guys are excited to see either come back or that are new for this year?
Well, I would say the new guys in town, right? The ones that haven't been here before. We're so excited about Circle K, who are, a new business in town.
And our Mexican food.
Right, our Mexican food. Yeah, it's so wonderful to see the enthusiasm with newcomers. And that's kind of what keeps the 3 of us going, sharing at meetings how excited the new businesses on the block are.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News, and have a great night.